Hi, everybody. I'm Rory from Avon Agency. So we're working with Pernod Ricard on this amazing SIP program. Thanks for everyone for being here today from Asia and anyone who is from Asia to Europe and anyone who's either still up or not yet asleep. Amazing to see a nice global crowd out there. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Ask questions in the chat. Please ask as many as you like, and we will answer them at the end of each segment of Keith's presentation. So for those joining us for the first time, SIT is Pernod Ricard's global platform for creating the craft, for celebrating the craft, creativity, and community of hospitality. Mentorship is our educational arm where we platform for industry mentors to share stuff you won't learn anywhere else. This month and next, we have Keith Motsi from VIRTU at the Four Seasons in Tokyo on the topic of service and hospitality. Then in March, we welcome Juliette Larue from Schmuck in New York on the topic of creativity and product. And then from May, we have Jean Trin from Alchemico Cartagena on leadership and operations. And we have a few more upcoming events. Our small group session with Daniel Nevsky will be happening soon. Participation is limited to fewer than 10 people. So you apply for this on our Instagram. Nevsky was our last masterclass. It was fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed it if anyone here was on that. And you get a chance to have a bit more of a one-on-one session with him by applying to the small group session on Instagram. You can also join our community on WhatsApp. So the SIP community by Pernod Ricard. We also have a channel, SIP by Pernod Ricard. You can join that for updates, tips, and direct access to all the mentorship content. The links are both in the chat. So let's meet the man of the moment, the star. Keith Motsi, the head bartender and beverage operations at VIRTU, Four Seasons in Tokyo. He's had nearly a decade with the Four Seasons group, so some would say he's well seasoned within the group. He is also the winner of the Altos Bartender's Bartender Award 2022 at the Asia's 50 Best Bars. I mean, some career you've got to have to get that accolade. So Keith leads our masterclass on service and hospitality, based on his extensive experience and his thoroughly charming demeanor. Keith is a real insight into what hospitality means in high-end hotels and also across multiple cultures. So settle in, get your notebooks ready, and prepare for Keith's trademark humility, charm, and wisdom.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the introduction. It's great to have a hype man. Thank you, Pernod Ricard, for sponsoring and setting up the SIP mentorship program. It's a great opportunity for us to engage the industry, and again, for us, it's to give back, it's to share, it's to inspire, and to pioneer some ideas and getting the conversation going. For me, I think hospitality will be the topic. Service and hospitality is what we do every day. So there'll probably be a lot of things you probably know or have heard, but this is sort of from my experience of a lot of years working in different environments. And now I'm on my third country with Four Seasons in the past 8.5, 9 years. So it's a lot of learning curve. We had to move around from Europe to Asia in a professional capacity. So it will be from a first-hand experience of what I've learned, and I'd love to share with everybody. Yeah, question-wise, I like to be quite interactive. So if you have a question in mind, please feel free to fire away so we can answer whilst we are talking about the topic. Or there will be a little bit of a Q&A. I like very interactive sessions. We are here to share ideas, so please don't be afraid. There is no right or wrong question. The most important thing is let's all be curious with each other. We'll be starting on this page of Sharing Inspiring Pioneer by Pernod Ricard. This is my world of hospitality. And then, for a start, we just start with a few sentences. For me, hospitality is not an industry, it's an energy and a mindset. So, we will see a lot of these little drawings on a lot of the pages and a lot of the presentation. It's a lot of the times and, the brain power, the battery, the plug in, the plug out, the mindset. It's just kind of a lot of evolving components of how I approach hospitality. Sometimes you're fully charged, sometimes you're not fully charged, sometimes the electricity is the energy, the light bulbs are on, the car is plugged in, everything is connected. So for me, it's an energy and a mindset. You have to think of it. It's not a normal, it's not service, it's not something normal. It's just you have to be in the zone. You have to give quite a lot. And then you have to be, what we do, energy and what you give off and the mindset, it has to be right to offer the best hospitality and to be the best host. The first thing for us, for me, people business, we work with people. We cannot avoid them. AI is not gonna take over from us. We work in one of the industries where I think AI will be used for a lot of the different aspects of what we do. But most importantly, to be a great host and to deliver the service that will never be taken over by technology, by a robot, by AI. So first of all, we work in the people business. We need people to come into our places, so we operate these places so they can run. And then, in the morning, I always say, with our team, we start with ourselves. When you look from within, you look in the mirror, and then you decide on who you are and why you are doing this. The people business is hard. So it's about having the honest conversation from within. And then once you kind of know yourself, it becomes quite easy to survive and to have longevity. Recognizing individuality and being able to adapt is sort of setting yourself up for success. So you need to be authentic. And then when you're authentic, it means things become easy. It doesn't become a job, it becomes just a hobby. So one of our running jokes is, for me, this is actually still my hobby. So I've never worked in my life. One day I might wake up and I might need to get a job. But until that time comes, for now, it's just because the way I approach hospitality, it's you have to want it. You wake up in the morning and you have to be ready. As soon as I wake up, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk to people. I'm ready to listen to people. So, I still find joy in sort of the mundane things. With the people business, obviously, there's gonna be a lot of expectations. What do you expect from yourself? And what do others expect from you? People expect us to be welcoming, friendly, efficient. You have to be attentive. People want to feel special. People want to feel comfortable. You have to be adaptable. You have to be efficient. Everybody wants to be treated with warmth, care, to be understood, and with openness. People want memorable experiences. They want empathy. So basically, expectations that other people expect from you is probably what you should expect from them. So, again, it goes back. We have an ethos in Four Seasons, one of our golden rule. Treat people as you'd want them to treat you. So for me, that aspect of hospitality is kind of ingrained. It becomes easier if you treat people with respect. It becomes easier if you want people to treat you with respect and kindness, then you have to treat people with respect and kindness. You're either nice or you're not nice. People will embrace you as a character if you're consistent. Consistency in your approach, service delivery, and quality is crucial for long-term success in our industry. Some of the grumpiest people I know are still some of my favorite people, because they're consistent. We can all not be nice every day, but you have to set your expectation. If you're nice today and you're not nice tomorrow, and then you're nice the day after, then you're not. People do, again, McDonald's, perfect example. It's not the healthiest restaurant chain or fast food, but the reason why they're successful is because they are very, very consistent. McDonald's in Thailand, McDonald's in Germany, McDonald's in in Europe, you're gonna get a nice consistency. So for what we do, you should always be consistent. If you're grumpy, be consistently grumpy. People will come to accept you for that. So, just be consistent with your approach. Yeah. Don't change because this person is this person. Just be consistent in your approach, and then people will kind of embrace you for who you are. Not everybody can be nice and warm, but you can be grumpy and approachable. Hospitality, what does it mean? I think for a lot of different people, it means a lot of different things, different perspective. For me, hospitality and being hospitable is not just a career, but it's also a state of mind. The magic of the bar industry is our ability to create genuine memories for our guests, peers, and people we encounter on a daily basis. And that is what drives me day in and day out. I chose sort of my mindset. I want to be nice. I cannot be grumpy. So that is what expectation. People expect me to be approachable and to be nice. I always say being nice is not many people nowadays are nice. There is our industry now, there's a lot of accolades, there's a lot of things involved that were never here before. So, I always say just start by being nice. I always say when I hire or when we do recruitment, nice people you want to spend time with. That is the first thing we look for. So for everybody tuning in, just be nice. Yeah, when you're nice, the world opens up for you. Most people, you find the world is kind. Most people are nice. So, just a simple thing of being nice, never underestimate such a basic thing. It will go a long way to opening up doors for you. Hospitality, how do I adapt to different situations, environment? The first bar I ever worked in was a bar in Leeds called Jake's Bar. I don't know if you know that one, Rory, or Legendary Basement in Yorkshire, legendary dive bar. But, brilliant place. I started there as a glass collector, and the goal was always to be the best glass collector. And today, when I start, that's still the goal. When I got into this industry, it was kind of to be the best version of myself, and that was to be the best glass collector. So I still have the same mindset. And then after the dive bar, I went into restaurant bar, and then I went into members club, and then I ended up in a luxury hotel. How do you approach a guest from USA compared to one from Japan? Hospitality, we go back to you have to be adaptable. Someone in a dive bar, they want their drink very fast. They want to, everything a little bit different to someone in a restaurant bar. Restaurant bar, they want, you might not get to chat to many people because you're dispensing a lot of drinks as guests are having their dinner. Members club, you become a little bit like a small family because you see them all the time. So you get to know each other, the ups, the downs. You kind of can have almost like a brotherly brother and sister, relationship. And then luxury hotel, where I am now, very different. The guest there requires a certain approach. And then when you're in a region which is a different culture and situational differences, it's very important to be able to read the room. A lot of the guests here now, my approach here will be different to the approach I had in Europe. Here, people have a lot more time. Here in Tokyo, people like to take their time. They don't like being rushed. They might not like me being too chatty. So for them, that's probably a brilliant experience. For a US guest, if I don't speak to them, if I'm not chatty, if I'm not fast, they probably had a bad time. So not one size fits all is one of the important things about what we do. We have to be adaptable pretty much on a daily basis. One day, if I'm good to one guest now, that doesn't mean I'm great to another guest. Some guests might come in, they want a quick beer. So that means they might not really want to talk. They want their beer fast, and they will be moving on. So it's about taking your ego then out of it to adapt to situational awareness of what's happening in front of you. Be adaptable. Don't forget that one. And not one size fits all. Hospitality here, we have a few words here that I love in the culture here. Omotenashi and Kaizen. Omotenashi is basically being selfless and giving yourself unto others. We deal with people every day, so everyone has an ego. So, as hospitality individuals, being in control of yours, be selfless, anticipation, mindfulness, and detail orientated. It's not about what you get in return, but about self-fulfillment and how you make others feel. You have to give the best of yourself without expecting anything in return. For a lot of people, you have to be in the industry for the right reason. If you're selfless and you anticipate the guest's needs, and detail orientated is one of the great things I've learned being here in Japan. It's not so much about speed, it's about understanding the guest or someone in your space. Progression, not perfection, is what we like to say here, even for our team. And then Kaizen means daily improvement on a daily basis. Are you better today than you were yesterday? Those two words always stay with me. So, as hospitality professionals, we all have our ups and downs. We all have our bad days. But for us, at least we get a chance to kind of restart. We have an opportunity to be better than we were the previous day. So, with the Kaizen, we go, do not chase trends, chase progression, not perfection, should be the aim. If you're better today than you were yesterday, then that's positive progress. One small step at a time over a year, that's 365 habits that you've improved. Sometimes we want the big improvements, the big changes, but just slow and steady improvement where you work, what you do outside of work, just small habits. Small habits become such a big thing. So remember, progress, not perfection, should be the aim of yourself as a hospitality of the service you offer.
I actually have a question on that. Can you think of any examples where you've had a team member that you've sat down on a one-on-one and they're not feeling like they're progressing, and then they've moved on and they've changed certain things? Do you have any examples of things that they might have changed to help themselves make that step of progressing every day rather than, in chunks or whatever?
That's a very good question. I think for us, it's one of the things we do, we run a daily briefing. I think pretty much every place runs a daily briefing. It's always sometimes if someone one-on-one, I just ask him like, what did we do better yesterday than the day we did than what we did before? There's always quite honest discussion. It'll be like, hey, drinks were running slow. So it's like, okay, if we were doing 5 minutes yesterday, or if it was 6 minutes yesterday, today we do 5 minutes 45. That's 15 seconds difference. I'm not asking 30 seconds, not 45, just a small, then the aim is like, okay, we will get to 5 minutes, but we don't need to get there just today. Because sometimes you get hit at the same time. and then that 5 minutes. But just, in their career, it's also kind of like, did you go to the seminar? If you start at 2:45 p.m. and you show up at 2:45 p.m., for me, that means you don't want to learn. If you turn up maybe at 2:30, then you have 15-minute window of actually, improving on yourself. You could have learned a skill, whether that's, knife skill, cutting a fruit or cutting something. So, that's showing that you want to learn. That's progress. So,
Or even just take a breath, you know. I've taught the same thing, you know, starting at 2:45, then turn up early, take a breath, understand the space you're in, who's there, you know, make sure everyone's okay, and then carry on.
yeah,
Thanks for that, Keith.
yeah. My HR
I'll move on.
probably HR probably won't be happy with this, but I always say if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. So, so, I'm always
But
like,
you're not judged for it.
yeah, but I'll be keeping tabs. But,
Yeah.
again, I always say those 15 minutes or the 5 minute when you arrive, you could learn something. I'm not asking to show up 1 hour, da 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 da, That 15 minutes so shows you want to self-improve. That's a self-investment in yourself. So I always have a lot of these conversation, people want to do a lot, but they don't want to sacrifice, their own time to be able to do it. So, but again, daily progress, not perfection. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think I've got a question. Keith, I imagine that a decade in the Four Seasons and need a lot of graciousness and calmness. Are you a naturally gracious person, or it is something you learn throughout your career? And while on this topic, what is the hardest situation you had to manage before being a manager? That's a good question. I've always been naturally chilled, so that always helps. But I think I would say when I first started as a younger manager, I was a little bit more hot-headed as well. When you think you know it all. So, I think over time I've developed. I always say there's no substitute for kind of calm. When everything else is happening around you, you should be just, you have to be the calmest man in the room when the ship is sinking. Naturally gracious, or is it something you learned throughout? Again, you pick up a lot of, I've picked up a lot of habits in different places. Uh, I kind of got out of my comfort zone when I moved to Asia. I moved to China when I was at 26. So, I'd never lived in Asia, and that was, kind of just gone out of my comfort zone. So you have to kind of humble yourself, and then you have to learn how to listen. Because, when you're in your comfort zone, you think you know quite a lot of it. You live in London, you know the corners, you kind of know everybody. So, when you move, I always recommend for everybody to live abroad because that will quickly sort of humble you when you realize you know nothing. When you realize you know nothing, that will just, you learn how to kind of listen and understand a little bit more. So I think it's learned throughout the career, just again, adapting to different situations. The hardest situation I had to manage before being a manager, oof, I think that one is probably understanding what the managers go through is probably the hardest thing. Then once you get there, you realize actually they do quite a lot because, sometimes you don't think they're doing much. Then when you get there, you start to be like, it humbles you again. You'll be like, actually, this is harder than I thought. Hospitality, setting a standard because I have a water theory is, I always say cocktails are central, but people really come for the experience. If they order a glass of water, we'll serve them the best water they've ever had. It's just one of those things, I always say it's a small detail, should be given the utmost of respect. It becomes part of your daily habits, which in turn make a big impact on your daily life, both professionally and personally. Commit yourself to excellence in everything involved in your life. Create and innovate to improve the quality of your profession. Take risk, push boundaries, and challenge yourself. Strive day in, day out to be better. Before cocktails, before they try anything, it's like when you welcome someone to your house, you always offer a glass of water or whether it's tea. You know, you'll be surprised the amount of places I've been, and then cocktails brilliant, everything brilliant, but water, the one thing that I will keep drinking is kind of a forgotten, everybody kind of forgot about it. It's the smallest gesture that makes the biggest impact, but most places overlook it. You know, for me, that's how you set a standard. If you come into my place and then the first thing we give you is water that's not at optimum temperature, that's the standards we set. That means everything else is not gonna be, at that level. So I always say, set a standard for you to make sure the small habits are looked after, same as kind of the bigger picture. The small habits form part of the big picture. So always do not overlook setting a standard there. What happens if we fail to meet expectations? Can we recover? I think we have quite a lot of people, maybe different stages in our hospitality careers or our mindset. One of the things I always say, hospitality is not rational. It makes no sense on paper. Being positive and learning how to read people. I think someone asked if I've always been gracious and what some of the challenges are. Yes, you learn a bit more over time. I always say challenge yourself to learn something about your environment. You know, again, that's one of the nice things of living abroad because you have to try a little bit harder. You cannot just coast in comfort like you when you're in your hometown or your home country or when you speak the same language. Be curious and be aware of your surroundings. One of the things I always say to our team, is like we aim to take notice if someone's got a new haircut or someone, it starts with the people you see every day. I always say practice gratitude, the small things of just acknowledging, hey, your hair looks nice or that's a new tie. It might not be a big thing to you, but it gives confidence to someone. And then you get in a mindset of just being positive, you know, and then that grows, and then it starts off the energy you give out is the energy you receive. If you compliment people and it's become second nature, people want to spend time with you, people want to be around you, and then we get invited to be, speakers on mentorship. Thank you, Peno Ricard. But it's energy you give is what you get back in return. The more positive mindset you have, the more you're willing to understand and recognize others. The more positive mindset you have, the more positive that comes back. You know, life's a journey. Make every life you come across a little bit more special and more memorable. That, in essence, is true hospitality. Hospitality and reading the room. At the end of the day, we are on stage, and it's every moment is short time. When you're on stage, it's pretty much not just at work. For me, it's also when you are outside of work. Once you learn how to read the people, reading in a room and setting the stage becomes much easier to do. True hospitality is about creating memorable experience through genuine interactions, exceptional service. You have to learn to read the room. It goes back to the water. If it's cold outside, they still have their gloves and their scarf on. Do they really want the coldest water? Maybe not. They probably want a little bit of a warm water or room temperature. How do you create memorable experience and genuine care for people? So it's looking around, and I do have a question from Mark here. Would you say that today hospitality has changed compared to before? I might put this on a panel, maybe one word answer, Rory. Ooh, that's a good
Yes.
Sam.
I guess it depends on so many factors. I mean, hospitality in craft cocktail bars or hospitality in Four Seasons. I mean, what have you seen, Keith, in your experience at the Four Seasons over 10 years? Have you seen it go from more uptight to more relaxed, for example? Is it less about the white gloves? Is it more something else or?
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you, Mark. Actually, yes, because I think if you look now, what was it, 10, 15 years ago? I think the average age used to be like 52 years old for a Four Seasons guest, and now it's around early 40s, 40, late 30s. So I think we have to again progress. You have to move. Different guest profile, different mindset. You know, what the 55-year-old want and what a 35-year-old want. I mean, there's crypto now, young people can afford this. People are making a lot of money, social media, so they can afford these places. Yes, it has changed, but I'll go back to Nevsky's seminar. This is the best time to be in hospitality there's ever been. We're quite lucky. So if you're one of the newer generation, you are in the best time. The education aspect, the opportunities, the connections. I remember when I first started, we had to travel to London for any kind of seminar, for any brand thinking. That was 4 hours away from Leeds. There wasn't this access we now have. If I need a recipe, I can find it online. If I have a recipe in my mind, I can type it into AI and it can almost put it together, right? So yes, it has changed. But what's not changed is everybody wants to be treated nicely. Everybody wants to be respected, and everyone just wants to be taken care of. I think that's the sort of thing that will never change. But yes, for us who work in it, yes, it has changed, it has evolved. For the guests, their expectations are still kind of the same. I still want to be taken care of. I still want to be respected. I still want to be taken care of. So, this is connections. Hospitality finds ways to make connections and to share those connections. I think a lot of us now travel quite a lot. We do events. We represent our bars, our places. I'm not from Japan, but people do ask me a lot about Japan, about Tokyo, about the culture. So whether I like it or not, I'm almost now an ambassador for the city. I've lived in Seoul. People still ask me a lot about Seoul, about their place, about their country. Beijing, I lived. People still ask me, so, also you should be an ambassador for the city, turn your place into the city's living room, connect people together. Go out and make connections. You never know who open doors for you. A lot of us sometimes forget that connections matter. Without connections, you really don't get anywhere. And the most important, customers who have an emotional connection with you, the more emotional connections, the more memorable the experiences, and the more loyal the customers are. Consistency builds trust, trust builds loyalty, loyalty builds your business. Deliver consistency magnificently. When people have a connection to you, we have a lot of guests that just come for certain people. We're quite lucky people come for the team. They've made the connections over time. We have a lot of industry people who send people to our place because we send people to their place. Those small connections go a long way. Hospitality is not just about us being in our venues, sort of hiding away. You go out to learn what's happening in your own city. Then you can recommend the place down the road. We give a piece of paper. So, find a way to connect people together.
I have
I think we,
I have a bit of a jump in there, Keith, actually,
yeah,
because for those who don't know, I'm Scottish, but I live in Paris, in France. And I found when I was bartending, that the people almost had a comfort asking a foreigner their recommendations and their opinions because basically like it's like you've come as a stranger to the city and you've found the things that you think are real within it or of high quality. Do you find the same that because you're not from there, there's almost that kind of ease of trust from your guests?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes I even ask them, I'm like, I'm probably not the person to be asking, a lot about Tokyo. They know more about Tokyo than I do. But a lot of them is like, we want from your perspective, that's how you build connection. But yes,
Mm,
that is a good point. People really, but also I think it's the comfort of you're both outsiders because some people who just resonate with someone who's a little bit of an outsider but live there. So, naturally they're kind of more inclined or open just to speak to you or just to
yeah,
approach
sure.
you. So again, you become the ambassador for the city that your adopted city, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think Sam's going to run through some questions that we've got on the chat here. Over to
Yeah.
you, Sam.
Yes, thank you, Keith. Just one from Washam Limbo, and he's asking Keith, hi Keith, how do you handle
No.
rush hour without dropping your standards and maintaining the same service?
Hello, thanks for the question. Uh, Very good question. We are quite lucky because we don't do standing, so it's all seater. Our bar technically is 48 seats, and then we're busy from open until close. So it's quite a consistent, you know, so we don't really have now any kind of rush hour, non-rush hour. So the way the bar is built and the layout of not allowing standing, so we can offer an elevated service very much helps. Because sometimes we get a lot of guests from outside who are like, I'll just go stand on the bar, but no. So we are consistent. Our service is quite consistent in terms of how it goes because we don't have. Yeah, the only thing we have to manage is I think we are having this chat earlier is when the waiting starts. So when the waiting list starts, that can go on to 1 hour. That's when I start to manage that one outside, the temperature of the people waiting, the welcome champagne if they need some water. I'll just reassure them we said it's going to be 15 minutes. Nobody's left, so it's going to be, it's just being honest with the sort of the guests with that sort of rush hour. But we're quite lucky. It's like we're open. It's just a consistent, like 30 covers sort of per hour for the 7 hours. I hope that answers the question.
We've also got another one from Deuce Griggs. So he's the founder of Subterra. He
Yeah.
says, we opened in August 2023, and I've been in hospitality since then. As a new owner, I'm working on systemizing our core identity so it's expressed consistently through both branding and hospitality. From your perspective, what frameworks or practices best translate a bar's identity into daily service and guest experience?
Thank you. I've had the pleasure of meeting Deuce once or twice, and then is very very charming and engaging individual. So without having visited the bar, I'm guessing the bar will be charming, engaged. So your personality as a bar owner should be the one that sort of shines through. I would say sort of build it in your image. What do you want to portray? What do you want the bar? You want it to be an international bar in Osaka? You want it, who's the guest coming to the bar? So I think you need to see the guests coming. If it's locals coming in for an international experience and it's 90% locals from Osaka, and then you cater to that one. You give them a little bit of international style hospitality. Like for us, we're a little bit outgoing. It's we kind of bridge the gap. In Tokyo, it used to be a little bit more formal. Hotels were formal. We couldn't hug sort of the customers. We kind of changed the aspect of like, okay, we're gonna kind of have no barriers, our hospitality. We're gonna be a little bit closer to the guests. Uh, Myself, the head bartender, is not just gonna be behind the bar. I'm gonna be on the floor. Usually here, the main person is behind the bar making all the drinks. There's no right or wrong way, but I wanted to bridge that gap. So I spend most of the time on the floor. So I'm very close to the guests, so they just don't see the head bartender from behind the bar, a little bit far away. So for you, I would say, what do you want the bar to be? You want it to be, again, is it a living room for the community? So it's gonna be very easygoing. Osaka people are a little bit more outgoing than Tokyo. So, you can build your identity on the people of Osaka. Naturally, they're warm, they're easygoing, they're by the sea. So those are it should be approachable and easygoing. Yeah, hospitality, teamwork, you know, we always go through this one. It does not matter how good you are without support from your team, friends, family, peers, and stations, you will not enjoy the ride. You are not alone. I think there was a question earlier from someone on how manage transitioning from management. What is a harder situation to manage before being a manager? Before, I used to want to do everything alone. I'm sure, I think, Rory, you've opened a bar, sometimes everybody, when you're managing a team, you almost want to do everything by yourself. But then, the more I realize like you're not alone, the more things just started happening, naturally. Be a great partner, team player, friend. If you're a great team player at work, you're gonna be a great, partner at home. It's those habits that will start to creep into your everyday routine. So again, being consistent and being a great friend, partner, hospitality teaches you a lot of that, you know. So but again, you're not alone. Teamwork makes the dream work for a reason. Look after your team and everything looks after itself. And always be a great team player. I clean tables. I host on the door. I talk, make sure you can do everything that, when the team needs. Hospitality and importance of community. I think over there you have a little list of bars. That's actually a piece of paper we give to all our guests. If you see the one there, there's around 28 bars on there. We'd love to have a lot more bars on there, but the paper, something we're going to be working on. Hospitality, the importance of community, we're going in from that teamwork. I always say teamwork extends beyond your own doors and venues. Support your peers. The great gift in life is to cheer on others' successes. Success for one is success for all. Success is contagious, so is jealousy. Never underestimate the importance of this. We are all ambassadors for the city, country we reside, ourselves, and our industry. Build strong networks, focus on customer service and guest satisfaction, develop leadership skills, stay resilient, adaptable, and humble. When we first started giving that list, I always had people asking why we are promoting other bars or venues. I was like, there's something like what, 3 million visitors per month in Tokyo. We cannot fit all of them in our bar. So, we recommend, as much as you'd want to fit that many people. But again, you need to, the city, the bars. People are going to ask you for the bars, for the restaurants. That's why we set this up. Like, we give it to people. These are bars we like to go. We've been treated, kindly. We don't have to do it, but a lot of our guests, what we see is they always all return as well. They will go to a bar and then come back a few days later and they want to talk about how great it was. But that's kind of extending your teamwork beyond your own doors. There's only a few people who probably understand how hard the industry is, and it's our fellow peers. So, we need to support each other. It's not about, I want to be number one, I want to be the best, da 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 da. It's like, how do we all benefit from supporting each other? How do I help the bar down the road get a lot of foot traffic? We have a lot of weight. There's a bar down the road. We can recommend guests to go there to start, and then they can come. There was a question of how's hospitality changed? It's changed massively, I'd say, the last 15 years. Uh, Technology, you know, TripAdvisor, Instagram, there's a lot of tools that were not there before. You know, I always say the best technology is still word of mouth. Don't underestimate that aspect. People still like you were saying, Rory, people still want to ask us and tell them this place is great. Most people will see online, but they will always really ask you, hey, have you been there? How is it? Especially people traveling outside, they still want to hear it from someone that the place is not just hype. It's not just Instagram. It's not just TikTok. So word of mouth is still the best form of technology. You know, Real-time feedback, use it wisely, impacts your work life, and there's also truth in there and also a lot of lies in there. If 10 people say your martini is crap, you might need to look at the martini. There might be some truth in that. Make sure you are in real life is what you portray on social media, SNS. That's whether it's your brand, the bar, yourself, you can't be, chatty that are outgoing on Instagram, then in real life you're just dry as like a slipper. You have to be consistent on what you show on social media, online, or your bar. If it has to be consistent. Again, I always say maintain your self-respect, stay patient, and allow yourself the time to truly hone your craft. Surround yourself with people of good character. Your growth in this industry is as much important personal integrity. We now live in the world of social media, especially the younger starting people in hospitality, where we want it all. You see online, you want to be it. I always say, I'll give your time to really hone the craft. What you see again on social media, some of those people have been doing this probably for a very long time, so it comes naturally. Hospitality, most importantly, have fun, love what you do, or why else are we here? Be someone that people want to be around and create an environment that you would want to be a part of. Working in hospitality is undoubtedly challenging. Only those with a genuine passion for the industry can thrive and find fulfillment. Also, you want to create an environment that you are a part of. If you're in a team, make sure you're a positive influence. Nobody likes a negative Nancy. So make sure, you turn up, you show up. That's who you are. That's your brand. If you're the one who's just negative, then people don't want to be around you. People don't want to, just, ask yourself, hey, what do I want the environment I work in to be? If you think you're not going to enjoy an environment where, there's a lot of negative people, so you have to change your mindset. But, just be someone who people want to spend time with, and then be bold, stand out, and be yourself, most importantly. This is one of, we're getting to the last one. I would say a mindset to live by, take good care of yourself first. After all, you cannot look after others if you cannot take good care of yourself. Infuse your work with genuine passion, ensure consistency in delivering exceptional service day in, day out. Treat guests with the warmth and care you would extend to family, fostering lasting connections and loyalty. Continuously expand your knowledge through learning opportunities, including education, industry events, and travel experiences. Embrace diversity and inclusivity, recognizing the value of different perspectives. Above all, strive for excellence in everything you do. Mediocre has no place in the hospitality industry. Set high standards for yourself and hold yourself accountable for achieving them. Continuously seek opportunities for improvement, growth, always aiming to surpass expectations and raise the bar for excellence. Remember, each day presents opportunity to grow and embracing a mindset of continuous improvement and excellence. You can chart a path towards success and fulfillment in your hospitality career.
Keith, that was awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think we're going to try and get through a couple of these questions.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of four or five, but we might not get through all of them. Um, Maurice, your question you just asked, I think probably we can answer that separately, maybe on the SIP group on WhatsApp or something, because it's a big topic and it's very dependent on where you live in the world or what market or what country you're aiming at. But if you're on the SIP WhatsApp group, or if you're not on it, then join it, and if you're on it, then stick that question up there, and we'll try and get to that as well. But thanks for asking it. It's a great question. Going to go back to Renzi's question. So how do you integrate hospitality with driving sales? At the end of the day, we do not need to generate. We do need to. We do need to generate revenue, but it can't be aggressive upselling. How do you train your team team on that to balance? So obviously, revenue generation is probably the ultimate goal, but then how do you not seem so pushy?
I think that goes back to connections. If you connect with your guests, they trust you, or if you connect, then that Yamazaki 12 can become a Yamazaki 18. We have a lot of guests that come in. We'll give them a little bit of taster, but they don't expect, hey, I don't really know these whiskeys. They don't expect to have a taste of the three. So what happens, you'll be, okay, this is what they taste like. Already you're going to persuade them to buy. Sometimes they're just talking. I don't really know the difference between the whiskeys. And then you give them a taster and then, oh, that's nice, I'll buy. So it might not be the most expensive, but they've already bought. That's being kind of going a little bit extra mile. Whereas if they ask, hey, what does Yamazaki taste like? Oh, it tastes like this. Cool. The conversation is kind of finished. So, those little touches of, going a little bit above expectation. We always, if someone starts talking about a line, oh, what's hibiki? Hibiki, this is the hibiki. It's the taster of Hakushu Yamazaki. You want to taste them on their own. They're not expecting you to go a little bit that extra mile. So, so it's up to you, Renzi, to be like, okay, to drive sales, they're in your bar. If they're, I don't know where you're based, but they've never been to this country. I'll give them something to taste that they haven't tried. If you're in Taiwan, okay, this is Taiwanese whiskey. If you're in India, this is local whiskey. Those are the things that we're not expecting. If they spend money, that's already generating sales. you know. So we give, some of those batch cocktails that you might use, we always give to try. Hey, you can try this. Then someone who was having one cocktail, oh, I'm gonna have an extra one because we just gave him a little taster of the other cocktails. So that sale of one cocktail becomes two. If you do that with 10 guests, instead of 10 sales, 20 sales. So, because you went a little bit above and beyond to kind of explain, give them a little try. So, that's hospitality going a little bit the extra mile.
Let's move on to Perry Chang's question. He says, hello, Keith. Perry from Taiwan. With 48 seats, how many staff members would you typically have on duty, including manager, bartenders, barbacks?
Yeah. So for us, 48 seats, we say 48 seats, but that's kind of, if we see everybody perfectly, it's 48. It's got to be, but you never see, some of the middle ones always get taken over. So I'd say the max people we probably have at one time, like fully, you're talking maybe 35. In an ideal world, we'll be able to see everybody perfectly. But we usually have now it's like 11, 12 people. We have three stations on the bar. So we have three bartenders. You have a drink runner. We have like three stations, one looking after the middle section, the window section, wall section. And then we have one looking after the back, the GRO, and then myself working hard or hardly working, probably doing nothing in a lot of people's eyes. But yeah, usually around the 11 on shift at least. But what's like everybody's trained to do barbacks, we have what we call part-timers in the back. So if we count them, it goes to 13, but they just look after the glassware in the back.
So we had the question from Maurice in there, which is about going abroad to work. I think probably we can answer that in the WhatsApp group. Um, and then I think Yeti sent us, the host, a question. There was, I run a mobile bar, mainly catering for large weddings, 200 to 600 guests, and sometimes I struggle with the right staffing. What type of plan for a bar back? But what type of plan for bar backs, bar managers, team leader, and bar staff ratio works best? I find that the cocktail bartenders always get too comfortable and don't want to be making drinks back to back. Feel free to answer that, Keith, but that also might be answered by Jean in his one on leadership
Yeah.
in a couple of months as well. But feel free to give your 2 cents on that.
I think in simple terms, what I always say for me is, you know, I always say break out the titles, you know, barback, manager, leader, bar staff. I think, when we're all in the trenches, I always say there's almost no title. Because if cocktail bartenders don't want to make drinks back to back, then they're in the wrong business. If you're a cocktail bartender and don't want to be making drinks, then it's like, hey, I'm a Formula One driver. I don't want to drive the car today.
A lot of them
Yeah.
don't have licenses there.
Yeah, I mean, in the Formula One, so,
Yeah.
it's like that's kind of one of the things that needs to be done. But if they don't want to shake cocktails, do a lot of batching and put them on the floor.
Awesome. I think we'll finish it at that. Yeah, Sam's just put something up saying, encouraging everyone to go on to the Ask Me Anything session. Keith will be doing an Ask Me Anything session on WhatsApp on the 26th. The time is TBC. The format of that is basically it's on the WhatsApp group, and you can fire away questions, and over the course of about an hour, Keith will send we'll start to answer those questions, and discussion usually arises. The one with Daniel was amazing, and there was a lot of questions put up on there. So we'll keep a lookout on the SIP Global Instagram for that, and make sure to join the WhatsApp community, which is a SIP community by Pernod Ricard, and the WhatsApp channel SIP by Pernod Ricard. And one last plug for SIP_global on Instagram. And Keith, what's your Instagram?
K Motsi.
K Motsi. There we go. Follow K Motsi, the one and only,
Yeah.
on Instagram as well, for any chats. And of course, he will answer to your PMs if you, at any moment you can. Please spam him with all the questions that you possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah, please
Let me
feel
just
free to, yeah, Maurice and Mark, please feel free to message me on IG because I think a lot of people always ask about moving abroad. I'll be happy to answer as much as I can.
Yeah, Maurice and Mark, I love talking about this topic. It is extremely subjective depending on what country you're going to, or what visa laws there are. But yeah, it'd be good to get a little discussion. I see you've already posted it on the group, so we'll try and fire you some messages over about that. If you can give us an idea of what country you might like to move to, it could probably help. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thanks to Keith for all his insights, and obviously Pernod Ricard for getting this together. Yeah, that's it, I think.